us, grade the assessment for us. It's really easy to review, for example, a multiple choice quiz to see if everybody got this question wrong. Clearly, that was a concerning question. Maybe we should go back and review it and see if it was accurate, or if maybe there was something confusing about it, and we can very easily do the assessment component of our work using Moodle quizzes. Then another part of Moodle quizzes is that they're instructional. So there's really some very nice components of Moodle quizzes where you can actually give feedback. You can actually provide feedback about answers. There's options for having multiple attempts of quizzes so that students can start to learn as they're taking a quiz. So sometimes I've used Moodle quizzes as practice quizzes, especially when it comes to when I've taught things like statistics, where our students can be quite afraid. Those math teachers here, students can just get really, really frightened about maths, and especially about test taking. And so I've often given practice quizzes for instructional purposes when it comes to Moodle quizzes. So they can be really, really helpful in a lot of different ways. And really, if we can broaden our thinking from just using quizzes as assessment, we can also use them in an instructional capacity. So what I will cover with this PowerPoint is briefly how to set up your quiz, and then types of questions. And then I'd like you to ask your questions so that I can more clearly answer and make sure that I'm not repeating things that you already know. And I want to make sure that this is kind of tailored to what you need. So when we set up a quiz on Moodle, we go to add an activity. So first, we always have to turn on editing, of course, up in the upper right-hand corner. And then we add an activity or resource, and we click on quiz. When we look at quizzes, we have so many different options for types of quiz questions. Setting up the quiz is separate from then choosing the different questions. So when you set up a quiz, you basically can change the timing of the quiz. And I think Mr. Schwaiger's video was really good going through all of this. So if you need a refresher on that, he has his YouTube video is really clear. It's 20 minutes. And he goes through how to set up the timing of the question, how to set up the timing of the quiz. So you can set it up to start and stop at a certain time. You can also set the how much time the student can take on the quiz. So you can set it to start at 12 and end at 1, and then they have 15 minutes. You can set a 15-minute requirement that they have to finish the quiz in 15 minutes. So they can take it any time between 12 and 1, but they only get 15 minutes once they open it. The layout, usually the best layout is 1 question per page, and that's the standard. That's how it's set up. But you can change the layout. You can put as many questions on the same page as you want. You can, the question behavior is also really important, that you can make so you can allow the student to respond to a question and then get feedback. There's so many really great options in your quizzes, again, for both assessment purposes and for the purpose of instruction. And so when we set up a quiz for instructional purposes, a really nice thing is that you can have multiple attempts with feedback. So the student, and especially again in maths, this is really great because the student can attempt the question, give the answer, and get feedback about their answer, and go back and attempt it again if they haven't gotten it right. So really, it's a really nice feature of the Moodle quizzes. So once you have your quiz ready to go, here you just go to add a new question, And that's where we get all of our different options for question types, which is what we're going to mostly focus on unless there's questions about creating quizzes. So let me check. Yes, okay, that's right. All right, so there's no questions yet. So folks, you had questions about these different types of questions. Did anyone want to, I think Ms. Sana, you have your mic off? Did you want to ask a question about one of these types of questions or about setting up a quiz? I don't think so. Sana, Miss Sana? No. Okay, so folks, you had questions about these different types of quiz questions. So tell me, what are your questions? Are there any? Raise your hand or unmute yourself and just start talking.
We do not see any hands or any questions in the chat, so I wondered if we should just, continue.
I think we should.
Start with the short answer one, and then go down the ones. The short answer, then MCQs, essay. I think these are the ones, the drag and drop and calculated. Actually, they want to know about, as per the survey, all of them, at least 15 people have asked that you want to know more about it. So I guess you could, just start off in a logical order as you have put up the presentation. We're happy with it.
Yeah, so should I start with MCQs?
Please.
People did still want to know about those. Okay.
Yeah, they all
want to. Yeah, okay. So when we create MCQs, so here is the list of all the different possibilities for types of quiz questions. So multiple choice are your standard ones. You write a question in the question box, and then you have your choice for how many answers you want. So you can have 2, 3, 5, 6. You can have as many answers as you want. And so that's like the A, B, C, D of your multiple choice question. And so if you have, if you're in a place where, if you're trying to measure something that is a clear yes or no answer, clearly what one choice would be correct, you put the answer into the box and you choose that this one will get 100% of the marks. The nice thing is you can also divide up the percentages. So if you want to give a type of multiple choice question that has more than one right answer, you can do that using Moodle. You just have to change the percentage for the choice. So if you have 2 correct choices, they would be 50 and 50. So it's really quite flexible. And the nice thing, and again, this is more of the kind of instructional aspect of quizzes, is you can provide feedback. There's 2 things. You can provide general feedback on the question, and you can provide specific feedback on certain answers. So if you know that, you've been teaching the course for a while, or you know the content really well, and you know that some students are going to choose this answer. You just know that's going to happen. You can provide some feedback about why that answer is incorrect. So it's a really a nice way that you can use Moodle quizzes to provide feedback to students, and make it a bit more of a back and forth, and a bit more instructional. Now, true, false are basically the same. The only difference is you just have the option of either true or false. You put in your statement and you choose which is the correct answer, false or true. And that's about it. There's, it's really simple, really easy. And again, you can provide feedback for your responses. And I find that students really appreciate having some immediate response that this is why this is correct. And so again, that instructional aspect comes in. Now, the next one is matching. And I don't think there were many people who, this was a kind of a 50-50 one. So in this type of question, you can create questions with a drop-down menu so that you have you have a series of questions or a series of words and their answers, what they would be matched to. And so students have to match their answer to the correct question. I'll show you what it looks like on the student side. So here's creating the question. You give your question text. So I wrote, read the following questions carefully and match the correct answer to each question. And here I've provided the questions and their answer, questions and their answer, all the way down. Save your changes. And then if you, whenever you're working with quizzes, if you want to see what the question is going to look like, you just click this little magnifying glass on your editing quiz section. You just click on that magnifying glass and you'll be able to see what the question will look like. So here at the top is what the question will look like. You have a bunch of questions here and they have to, for each question, they have to choose the correct answer. So this is really nice. You can use the matching. It's really a nice way if you have a bunch of concepts that are similar that you need to, that you want to kind of help students to differentiate between the concepts. This is a really nice way to do that. Now I see that there's a couple of questions in the chat, so I'm just going to stop for a second and take a look.
Yeah. Elizabeth, there's one, Usman, will you speak up? I didn't understand. Where did we start to such a quiz? He wants to know, how do you start? I think you go Moodle page and go to the resources, and if you could.
Yeah, so I'll go back to that again. Yeah, so I'll go back. So basically you go to your main Moodle page, your instructional page, and up in the right side corner, there is a little, let me see, I'll open it for you because that'll be easier. I'm not sure about internet. That's why I wasn't, I'll go to Moodle and that might help us. So up in the right-hand corner, there's a little settings button. I'm just logging into my account. Okay, so can you see my screen or it's just my PowerPoint? It's just my PowerPoint. Let me share this one. All right, so here's my page. This is my one of my old classes. So over here up in the right-hand side, we turn editing on. That's always the first thing we do before we do anything else. Then you can go wherever you want for the quiz to show up. If you want it to show up on the kind of top announcements section, or if you wanted to show up within a week, you just click add an activity or resource, and quiz is one of your options. Yeah, so you can, Ms. Busher, you can do negative marking. I tend not to do that because I like to, so if a student has earned marks for correct answer, I like to give them those marks. And I don't, so there might be certain situations where I would do that, but in most cases I wouldn't, because I want the students to at least try. And part of my, as an instructor, part of what I want for the students is for them to gain self-confidence. And so I don't tend to give negative marking for wrong answers for those reasons. But it is the instructor's prerogative. It's your choice if you want to. And obviously, if it's something that is preparing them. So if they had to take an exam in psychology that had negative marking, I would probably give them one quiz like that, so they'd have the experience of having to trust themselves in the face of that kind of situation. So certainly there could be many reasons why an instructor might use that. All right, can we change the closing time of the quiz once it has started? Yes, you can still, you can still change the settings for a quiz until it's closed.
You're right.
Once it's
There's a-
closed, you can't change any of the settings. But if you have, so for example, I had a student who I wanted them to retake the quiz because something happened. And so you can do a manual override for a student. You just have to make sure that you increase the number of attempts to 2 instead of 1, if you've got the attempts set as at 1. So you have lots of options also for a student who might have missed the quiz or who's wanting to start it but got late, and you want to give them another choice. You do have you can override for specific students or for all the whole class if you wanted to. That's an option. So Miss Aisha, in multiple choice questions, will it be different questions and different options for every student in a single time? Okay, so you can actually change, let me share my screen again. You can actually change, so let me create this quiz. Now, where did I put it? Test, where's the test? Where did it show up? It didn't show up anywhere. All right, maybe I'll try again. I don't see it. Oh, here, it's here. Okay, so if I click on the quiz I just created, and I click Edit Quiz, this is where I can add questions. And I can also, so something you should really use is the fact that Moodle provides these little question marks. And so if you click on the question mark, it explains what a certain thing does. So for shuffling, if you turn this on, then whenever the quiz is attempted, the order of the questions gets shuffled. So this makes it harder for students to kind of, if they're both taking the quiz together, they're not necessarily going to have the same questions at the same time. So shuffle is a really great thing that you can use. You can also, when you have a question, a multiple choice question, you can also shuffle the choices. And I usually use both of these options. So if I use shuffle on the quiz page, so back here, if I click this, it will mix up the question order. So one person will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The next person will get 10, 3, 5, 2, 4, like that. I can also, within questions, I can also change up the order with shuffle the choices. So that means one student will get question 1 with A, B, C, D. Another student will get question 1 with C, A, D, B. Like that. So the answers within are mixed up. So students can't say, oh, question 1 is answer B, because B will not be correct for every student. When you do this, you just have to make sure that if you have a question that has, let's say, E is all of the above, right? You have E as all of the above, all of these answers are correct. You have to change that to all of these answers are correct. Because if you say, all of the above, sometimes that's going to be A. And so it won't make sense. So that's just something you have to keep in mind if you use that strategy. I use it because it helps to reduce cheating. So I think hopefully that answers your question, Aisha. Okay, what about if the answer of a question, Dr. Abbas? Mohammed Abbas, what if the answer of a question is not an option A, B, or not true, false, but have to draw a structure? Yeah, so Dr. Abbas, we will be discussing this when we talk about different types of questions. So in particular, this is really, there's a type of question that's really helpful for this purpose, and it's called drag and drop. And in drag and drop, you can give a picture and they have to put their answers into the picture. You also have the option for example, with essay questions, you have the option of allowing them to attach. So if you want them to draw their response, you want them to draw out some chemical structure, you can have them draw it out, take a picture, and they can upload that picture using essay questions. And I don't know, Dr. Saba might know better than I if there's other options for that, but I know that essay questions do allow you to do that. Okay. Ms. Madiha, we cannot ensure that there's no cheating. There's just no possibility. So some of the ways that we can be sure that a student themselves is taking the quiz and not a friend of theirs is to do vivas. I mean, I really think that's the only way that you can be sure that the student is actually doing the work themselves. I know there's plenty of students who would pay others to take the quizzes for them. Probably fewer than we would think, but there are some students that do that, and there's really nothing you can do about that. You can try to give quizzes with everyone's at the same time with their videos on. But if they don't have a laptop, then every time they go to the Moodle quiz on their phone, their video is going to shut off. So I think really the main thing is to, at this point, we all know our students because we've actually been with them all semester, so we know them. So if you do essay questions, you might recognize that this is not the student's voice. This is not how they write. This is not how they think. So that's a way that you can kind of reduce cheating. But again, it's not really possible to ensure that nobody cheats. It's just not possible. We can do what we can, and that's a whole nother, I think, session to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, you are right, Elizabeth. We are having a session in February, I think 7th or 14th, where we have a panel of 3, including Dr. Trimble, talking about assessments and how to minimize cheating, I think. So please wait for that. I do realize, I'm sorry for taking your time, that while we are talking, a lot of questions are technical. Yes. And so for the technical questions, perhaps we should in the future, we should have done is like tell them to come prepared with the technical part so that we don't waste time. The instructional part of Moodle is far more powerful, and we have to learn that. So we will do send you video links for the technical part, and their guidebooks are already developed. We'll share those with you in the materials, that for now perhaps we should concentrate on instructional.
Yeah, so Mr. Usman from physics, thank you, Dr. Uksana. Mr. Usman from physics has asked that can we make a quiz with short question and extensive questions? Yes, so there's multiple types of questions that you can produce on Moodle. So these are all the types of questions. There's so many different types of questions, and I'd really like to get into some of these. So let me I agree, Dr. Saba. So Ms. Sumera, I'm not really sure about, I've never had a student figure out the key from Moodle. I've never had a student figure out the key. I've never put up the key. So I'm not sure about that question, but I want to get into talking about the different types of questions we can create in addition to the ones we've talked about. So we've talked about matching questions, which can be really nice if you're trying to separate out some concepts for students. Another really quiz type that a lot of people are wanting to know more about is short answer questions. So again, you go and you add your question and you click on short answer and add it. You'll get this box here. in this box, you can, and this is true of any of your questions. So you can put up a question in the question text, or you can put an image, whatever you'd like to do. So for example, I have given a, oops, where is it? It's not here. Anyway, I have given, so I've given blank question blanks. So if you say blank was the person who did this, the student has to fill in the blank. That's an option for short answer questions. Basically, what you're doing with short answer questions is you are giving the student, you're making the student do free recall, which is more difficult than recognizing the right answer. And so you have to come up with any of the different possible answers that could be correct. So if my question was blank was a psychologist who really had a lot of input in working memory, in the concept of working memory, Alan Badley would be the person that I would be interested in, and I would give all the different possible iterations of that. So if I know, because we live in Pakistan, people are more likely to just give the first name, I could write Alan as one of the correct answers. I could also write Badley as a correct answer, Alan Badley total as a correct answer, Alan Badley misspelled as a correct answer, and give them feedback that this is actually the way it's spelled. So I have in short answer questions, we have the opportunity to let students do a free recall, recalling the information on their own as opposed to recognizing. We just have to make sure we think of all the possible answers that the student could get that would be close to the correct answer. And so when you provide the answer, you also have the option of making case an important aspect. So if you want them to spell the person's name with their first letter, capitalized, if that's really important, if it's, for example, English, and you want them to give you a proper noun and it should be capitalized, you could keep the case as important, that the way you write it is the way it should be written by them. And again, this is a nice instructional aspect of Moodle, is that you can provide feedback about the answer. So that is short questions. So does anyone have a particular question about short answer questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So we can move up.
Yes, I think so, because the only other question I see is a technical question about changing the time.
Yeah, but that's on the edit part.
Yeah, it's just within creating the quiz. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is numerical questions on the list.
Yeah.
Numericals are good for questions that require calculations, so folks in maths, and they allow partially correct answers. So if there's a type of error that students often make in computing standard deviation, for example, you could compute the question in that way and give the error with feedback about what they did wrong. So numericals are really nice. You have an option for, you have lots of options. So you have options for giving the correct answer, the amount of error you'll allow, and the grade for that as well. So if you want to give the answer with no error as 100%, the answer with a 0.5 error as 90%, right? You have lots of options. So this is a really nice way to not just have Moodle score the quiz for you, but also give feedback. Again, if you know that there's a way that students often make a mistake when calculating standard deviation, for example, you can put that answer. For example, for this one, I put a negative value. So what did they do wrong? They forgot to square. They forgot the squaring step, or the making it an absolute value step. So really, numericals are really nice. You don't just have to do multiple choice. You don't just have to use words. you can actually do numerical questions, and the students have to put in a number, and you get it marks it for you, right? So that's really nice. And this is the way it would look to a student, that you got the correct answer, and here's how you got the correct answer. And essay questions. All right, so essay questions, a lot of people asked about these.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so essay questions. When we add an essay question, this is the page that we get. And you can see that there are several different options. The respondent can respond by uploading files or entering text. You can provide a template for the response, so you can show the student what the response should look like, but you have to grade the responses manually. Moodle will not grade essay questions for you. So it's nice because you have a place where you can have your essay questions, and it can be administered for you, but you have to grade those questions manually. So as with any question type, you have to put in the name of the question text, but then you have a lot of options here. You have the response format can be different. So you can allow the student to just type their answer. That's probably the one that is probably used a lot. You can also put the typed response plus the option for picking a file. So if you want, again, that was someone had asked the question earlier that if we want them to draw something, this is the perfect place for that, because you can do HTML editor with file picker, so they can write something and they can upload, or you can do no online text and they just upload something. So that's the first response option, is the type of format for their response. The next is, do they have to write something or not? So you can make students, you can require them to enter text, or you can make text input optional. And then you can also give a limit for the number of words they can use, for the number of lines they can use. So if you don't want them to go on and on and on, you want them to make a very succinct response, you can make it, 5 lines, 10 lines, 15. So you can actually set the size, the amount of lines that they can take to write their answer. If you're going to just have them write their answer, then you don't allow attachments. If you want them to draw their answer, or if you want them to write out their answer, you have to allow them to attach something, and you can allow 1, 2, 3 pages or an unlimited number of pages. You can also, so if you really, again, that same question that you want them to draw something and upload the picture, you have to decide what the file type is. So it allows image files, text files, audio files. If you want them to speak their answer, any of these you can do. I usually just click all file types just in case, because students have different word programs, even word processing programs. So, whoops, I'm missing a page here. Yes. So then you require attachments, yes or no. So again, in that case, you would require attachments, and the accepted file types, again, there's all these different types that you can use. Are there questions about essay? Essay is really nice.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there are any questions.
Okay. Calculated questions are really good for, there was a question about cheating earlier. So calculated questions, for those of us who are in maths kind of fields, calculated questions are super helpful for reducing cheating. because they allow for random values to be entered. So you, as the instructor, have to provide a formula. And then the Moodle program will actually input different values in the question, so that one student will be finding the mean from the values of 1, 3, and 5. Another student will be finding the mean from the values of 10, 2, and 4. So you have everybody getting different numbers for their calculations. So that makes cheating less of an option for students. So basically what you do is you put in formulas. So you put a formula into the answer box. And so for example, if you want to find the area of a square, so the formula should be A times B. And what Moodle will do is it will enter wildcard values. So you have to put the range of values that can go like from 1 to 10. But Moodle will then input for A, they'll give one value, and for B, they'll give another value. So when the students are taking the quiz, they will see what is the area of a rectangle that is 4.8 by 7.9, and they have to put in the answer. Another student will see the question that says, what is the area of a rectangle that is 2.6 by 7.2? So everybody gets different values in place of the A and the B. And the formula that you put in tells Moodle how to calculate the answer. See, here you go. And then Moodle will be able to say, yes, it's correct. No, it's not. And if you want to use these types of questions, just do a simple search of how to code using calculated question types. They'll give you all the different codes, the different ways of coding these kinds of questions. And you just copy the code and put it in and you're set to go. So this is really a nice way to reduce cheating. Drag and drop, someone else has just asked about drag and drop. So drag and drop is really helpful for testing models, maps, figures. For example, in my case, let's say for one of my courses, I want the students to label the different parts of a neuron. So in the question text, I write label the following parts of the neuron that we learned in class. In the actual, what they're actually going to see is a picture of a neuron. I'm going to choose my file. What they're going to see is this picture of a neuron that I've chosen that has arrows pointing to the different areas that I want them to name. This is what it looks like when I've uploaded it. Now I will look at draggable items. So I will put the text in. So for example, one area is dendrites. I'm going to make that a draggable text. Soma, axon, terminal boutons, etc. And so when I include all of those, I can also shuffle each item after the question has been attempted to reduce cheating again. Now, once I do that, Moodle allows me to write what the draggable item is, and then I can move it around on the picture to the place that I want it to be in. And once I do that, once I choose all of them, the students, so this is what it looked like at first. I drag each of the items and put them where I want them to go. And that's how I get this page, right? Once I do that, the students will see this. So when they get this, these will be shuffled each time. And what they have to do is they have to pick up and put each of these items in the place that corresponds with the specific area of the axon. Now I'm kind of running out of time. Are there questions about that? It's really, really a nice feature of Moodle, and you can use diagrams, etc.
Abbas wants to know if
Uh,
student has an option. Yeah. To draw. Yes.
So Dr. Boss, what I would suggest in that case is using the essay type question. Because this, you have to set up, you set up this with a picture and they have to drag and drop the items. If you really want them to draw something, I would go with an essay question. Because you have the option of allowing for the file picker so they can take a picture and upload it. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah. Sabah says, you know, she's the other expert we have on the chat. And she says that's the best way to do it. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think we are moving closer to, is this a preference? Is there a preference for any other quiz to be done before we move on?
So these are all the types of quiz questions I've covered.
Oh, great.
So MCQs, so 2 minutes left to go. We've covered them all. MCQs, multiple choice, true, false, matching, short answer, numerical, essay, calculated,
Great.
drag and drop. So we've covered all the different types of questions. And really, folks, I would suggest get on Moodle and just try things out.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the thing that's really helpful about Moodle is these little question marks. If you share, let me go. If you are going on Moodle doing anything, these little question marks, they give you a lot of information about what the question does. They give you information about, and even when you're setting up the quiz, click on those question marks because they will explain to you what different options mean, because it's not always clear.
Yeah. Man wants to know that can short questions be graded like other MCQ and other Moodle quiz? And I think that's the only, yeah, please, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so short answer questions, basically you put in the correct, so basically they're entering their response. So you put in the correct answer and you can make it so there's only one correct answer, or so there's 2 or 3 correct answers, but basically Moodle looks at what you've given for answers and matches the student's answer. So if they've given the correct answer, they get 100%. If they've not given the correct answer, they don't get the 100%. So it is graded on Moodle.
Yeah.
Moodle does it for you. You just have to put in the answers that should match.
Yeah, but sometimes people forget to make it case sensitive or not. If they leave case sensitive as unimportant, then I think there is a better chance of getting more correct answers, because a little bit of difference in case sensitivity of answers can make it a wrong answer when it is a right answer, actually.
That's right. So that's why when I was talking about short answer, I said it's good for you to know the kind of errors that students will make so that you can put those errors in so they'll get caught by Moodle. And you can put case is not important. You can allow that case, there's no case sensitivity. So if someone writes it in lowercase letters, it's okay. If you need it to be in uppercase, if you need it to be case sensitive, you can also change it there. But the nice thing about short answer is that you can give all the possible answers you can think of, that ways that students could answer that could be correct, even if they're slightly wrong. So that's nice. I would probably be inclined to just double check the answers if I had time, because you never know if a student made some error that I didn't think of. But the other thing I often do is I often review quizzes with students. So going through the quiz and saying this was the correct answer, right? Again, as a learning experience, as instructional. So that's also an option. Yeah, and I
So-
think sometimes like with the intermediate, with the college side, they often have to have exact responses because of the type of questions that are asked. So if you're trying to prepare students for an exam where they're going to have to give the exact definitions, then it's a good idea to use the exact definition as your answer. I think, Mr. Usman, that you can't put in, it would be difficult to make students do formulas in short answer. It would have to be an essay question so that they could upload, they could take a picture of the formula that they've written and upload it. I think it would be a little bit difficult. I mean, maybe Dr. Sabha, maybe you know about if there's any, I don't think there's any syntax, any way of writing any way of writing formulas for answers. I don't think that's a possibility.
Any answers, Sabha and Sabha, but either of you, if you could respond to Elizabeth's query? That if you can write a formula, repeat that again, Elizabeth, that you can?
I don't know. So I don't know if it's an option to write formulas in the answer box. I think probably the best thing is if you're trying to get students to write formulas is to use essay questions and have them upload their answer. But I'm not sure. I know Dr. Smith does quite a bit.
So I don't know if either of these two could respond to that. I can't. That's for sure.
Yeah, hello everyone. Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yes, we can write the formulas in the options. We can even write it on a piece of paper, drag its image, and the option is available in the form of editable image. So yes, option can be written in the formula type or anything like this.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sabha. And
Yeah.
Dr. Sabha Butt has also written math writing as an option.
Yeah.
Image upload or math writing.
Yeah. So these two, why is it that all three of you are brilliant? And I don't want to make a gender bias over here, but I would have thought, what really gets me is the nitty-gritty that comes with the editing options for Moodle. You really need to go and practice with those before you can really get every box covered and ensure that what students' response is not, if it's correct, is not, ticked as incorrect by Moodle the way you have filled the form. I think that would be my biggest worry when I'm doing quizzes like this, that have I covered all the options in ticking the boxes? And I think that will be your challenge. Like Elizabeth said, you have to keep on trying and just practice. I see that we don't have any more questions. We have thanks coming in. We have only 44 of you have responded, while there are 55 of you online. Maybe I know you have your classes to go to, but please do fill in the form and we'll in a cottage a day. So 45 or 4,500%. So many of you perhaps have not responded. We'll end the poll now and just sharing the results for your own very satisfied and satisfied. That's great. So there's no dissatisfied and very dissatisfied, which we sometimes have, and I would love to know why is that so. There are two responses that they say are neutral. We'll be happy if you could at some point write to us that why did you think it was neutral? Because you knew it all and it did not add to your knowledge. But then perhaps, or was your question not satisfied? That would help us even improve our sessions even further. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Elizabeth, am really indebted to you for your kindness that you agreed. I was not very sure, but I know that Sabah Iqbal and Sabah Bhatt are also again superb. And I'm sure there are so many others who haven't said anything. I see Sarah, Faiza Tasneem, I'm sure they are great. And some computer science faculty who must be very good at this. Please do interact during the chat so we have more sharing of experiences, or if you want to add to something, it is always very helpful. For now, it is goodbye and thank you so much. Okay, Elizabeth, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.